Hey, what's up YouTube? Evan Star here, and we're back with another painting video. Tonight I'm going to be working on some Anima tactics. Once again, my favorite metal miniature character line to paint at the moment. So, starting in with the eyes, I'm working on 3 Empire characters tonight. I'm actually going to abandon one, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So I'm working on Daniela there, who's the archer. Working on Lillian Virgil, who's kind of on the left side of the screen, that female paladin style character. Here she is. Just doing a little eye work. And then the other model off screen is MacBeth, who is a 40mm, semi-large base knight style character. And the reason why I've got MacBeth in the mix there is that MacBeth and Lillian have pretty much the same color scheme for their armor and their cloaks and stuff. So I'm really going to be focusing in on those two tonight. However, when I break out the fine detail stuff and I'm working on eyes and flesh, I do like to do a couple at a time. So I'm working on Daniela as well. So I paint the eyes in first, black, white in the orbit, and then black again for the center of the eye. And then I'm using this Vallejo model color deep skin tone, the extra opaque, to help me shape out the eyes. And this is what I typically do with my skins. And the reason why I use that extra opaque deep skin tone is because it is fantastic at covering, and I can actually go in and shape the outside edges of the eye and just kind of paint in that way. So I cut around the eye using the deep skin tone. Not a new technique for this channel, but hey, I figure might as well explain that again. It's one of my favorite things to do. Do the eyes and then do the skin first, because really that's where I spend a lot of time, is doing eyes and skin on these human models. So going in with the rest of the deep skin tone there on these two models. Again, Daniela is not really the target. I paint up the skin and eyes on these two, and I can set Daniela aside for a rainy day. If I have an hour or so to try to knock out a miniature, I've got the longest parts of that model already done. So I'm starting to mix some basic skin tone, Vallejo model color basic skin tone in with that deep skin tone. And it's it's going to be the the main coat there, just leaving a little bit of that deep skin tone into the recesses. So you can see that highlight going in. Once that highlight goes in, just coming in with a Seraphim Sepia wash. Again, this is my standard flesh formula for females. Once that sepia wash is dry, I add start adding light skin tone into the mix. And this is where you can spend a lot more time actually on female models, is keep going with the lighter skin tone. Because, I like to do fair skin on some of these female models. The model will go off screen there for a while. It's because I'm kind of pressed for time here. I've got about 2 hours to finish a couple of models because it's late at night and I want to play the next day. So sometimes for like precision work, I'll pull it off camera. And I'm, truth be told, I am still working on the whole keep the model in frame while I'm painting it. Not terribly good at it, but we're going to make do here. So now that the skin is done on both models, Daniela is just going to sit there on the left side of the screen. I'm going to start in with, that's MacBeth there, giant size knight. And I'm doing something crazy because Anima Tactics is all about that bright and wild anime style, that you can go really light colors or you can go dark colors. I'm going with that azure here, Vallejo model color azure, because I'm trying to paint in kind of a unique color scheme for the armor. I know it's kind of silvery metallic on the studio one, but I wanted to go just a little bit more blue to it, and I definitely wanted to do a little more non-metallic metal. And you can get away with that in Anima, and it's one of my favorite features of painting these models, is you can really get creative on the color schemes, and you can test things out, and it's not going to look outlandish or out of place with such a high anime theme that they've got going there. So the thinking here is I'm going to paint these both at the same time. That way my blends and my highlights will look the same on both models. Throw a little basalt gray there into the mix with that azure and a little bit of white because I'm going to go in with the very first highlight. So I've got a little gray in there to kind of mute things. If I went with straight white, I think this would look more like a straight sky blue, and I'm not going for that. I want kind of a richer appearance here, so it's just got a little bit of gray to it. You can see me knocking out some highlights really quick. These are really quick, really rough highlights, and it's really just to get a blend underneath the areas that I'm going to wash. So you can see the highlights are going on super quick, not terribly precise there. And there we go, and just a little bit more. And it's got kind of that dull, like bluish gray. Here comes the ink wash. I'm sorry, this is just a standard Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade wash, just to get into the recesses. I go kind of liberal with the washes, but I know how to remove excess, so it's not that big a deal. Pooling washes looks pretty poor, but if you can control the liquid with some dry soft brushes and just move the liquid where you want it to go, it's going to look fine. You can see my miscellaneous tools, my brushes there in the background while I'm doing this. I do use a few different brushes. The one I'm using now is I think that's a 1 or a 2, and that's going to handle the bulk of the work. But I also have a size 0 there. These are Winsor Newton Series 7, so I do use the natural bristle brushes. So here we go with the Cloaks. I'm going with an intense blue, Vallejo model color. That's a very nice blue for Cloaks. And one thing I'd point out is once you get to know your color schemes, like this is how I do intense blue, this is how I do azure armor, you'll know where to apply them on the model. For example, that azure scheme, you can use on Cloaks. I don't particularly like it as much as that deep blue. So, okay, so the wash is dry. Coming back in with that azure gray white mix to kind of base coat there. Sorry, my phone ended up here. I think I was talking on the phone while this is going on. So sometimes I'm talking on speakerphone. Got to be ready for the wife, so she may be calling while I'm painting. I think she might have been getting dinner or something like that. I forget. But yeah, so back in with the base coat over that wash. So you can see this stuff coming in pretty crude. And, I'm not terribly precise yet, but I will get there once we start blending this stuff up. But yeah, non-metallic metals, I mean, there are some really fancy, fantastic ways to do non-metallic metals. Unfortunately, we're not going to learn any of that in this video. This is about getting the models done in a reasonable amount of time, but still give it, give somebody something to look at here. So it's just going to be a pretty standard. I'm coming back in. You can see that that base color coming in, leaving just a little bit of that washed area there. And I go pretty hyper dramatic here on the lighting effects and the highlights. And I think Anima is just the perfect miniature range to do that with. So some more azure coming in there. You can see the fine detail on this stuff. Now this Empire stuff is fantastic, you guys, and it's beautiful for non-metallic metals. So you'll see me using azures, you'll see me using coppers, fake coppers, of course, non-metallic, coppers and golds. It's just great. I really can't say enough about how much fun these miniatures are to paint. So I always keep back a couple. So, putting Daniela aside for the night doesn't bother me at all. I can always pick her up and just finish painting her and have something ready the next day. So here comes some more highlights. I believe I've been stepping up the white mixture in these, and we'll see when I start playing with the lighting a little bit more here. Pretty standard stuff. I mean, I'm not doing anything groundbreaking here, but I am just kind of stepping up my lights, and you can see how white it looks when I'm coming in with those super high raised areas. Don't be too alarmed when if you're doing this and the highlights look that white. One, if you're going thin enough, they will dry down and they will show off the layer underneath, so it's not going to be that dramatic. And two, if you do end up over highlighting, you can always come back and mix a little bit more azure back in and tone it down a little bit. You can also use washes again Some people even use like they use the base coat and they'll make a thin glaze out of it just to kind of bridge color gaps there. That works sometimes. It's a little more difficult than working with the inks, at least in my opinion. Inks and washes are wonderful for that. But I trust in my process here, and I've done this azure kind of metallic before, so it's really not that big of a deal. But we'll see when they're done. There's the final highlights going in there just on the edges of the blade. So that's looking pretty good. And these miniatures are taking hold. I'm gonna come back in, work on the cloth a little bit. There we go. So I'm just doing little highlights on the cloth. That's the deep blue. Pretty subtle highlight. I mean, with how intense that intense blue is. Sorry, I keep calling it deep blue. It's actually intense blue. You don't want to over highlight that because you really want that to shine. You can even wash it if you want, but I do a very light wash on it just to give it a little bit of depth. So there we go. There's the wash going in. But yeah, these miniatures painted up really quick, and the lighting on them looks great. I think if you're staring at them, you'd probably see some mistakes, but you know what? So what? The fact is they look great when they're done. They look great on the table, and overall, I'm happy with it. And if you're happy with your own work, you're going to be just fine. So here comes a little bit more highlighting. I think I'm actually doing a little black gray in the under parts of the dress there, which is nice. Kind of sets off that bluish armor. Now I've got some beige brown to do the hair. Just about finished with these models. These were a lot of fun, you guys, and it didn't take me more than, say, 90 minutes, I don't think, to do these start to finish. No, it could have taken 2 hours, but I believe it was like 90 minutes because this stuff went quick. If you have your highlighting scheme down and you're able to mix stuff up, pretty quick. Here's the last bit of it. You can see the base work is done, and now I'm just doing the black. Well, wait, not yet. I'll do that here in a sec. I'll do the black rim. So, once again, thanks for watching, you guys. These are some very fun miniatures. I'll get them on the table. Hopefully shoot another bat rep, but we'll see. Baby's on its way, so... Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.